town of the good, the bad, and the weird. You either live by the gun, or you die by the sword.
Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
And today we dive into the origins of the multiverse with Marvel. We figured it'd be appropriate, especially with Ant-Man 3 Quantumanium just recently coming out. And we just had that little bit of luck where we decided to do Howard the Duck.
We are starting at the origin of the multiverse nonsense.
Kind of.
In a way.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know what this movie is, Howard the Duck is about an anthropomorphic duck who goes on a misadventure after accidentally being brought to Earth in a science experiment gone wrong.
Boy, you phrased that so much better than the movie did.
I gotta make it sound a little bit appealing.
Yes. So, it is based off of the Marvel comic of the same name.
Mm-hmm.
I am not intimately familiar with it, but I have read some of the Howard the Duck comics.
0 for me.
I
don't think I've read a single Marvel comic to begin with, so...
That's fair. I accidentally stumbled into the comic world scene because my mom knows that I buy books by the box full at garage sales. And at the bottom of said box was a collection of assorted comics. So I have some that I really don't know who this person is. And then I have a few good nuggets like one of the Howard the Ducks.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, just never got into American comics, so it's... My knowledge of anything Marvel is either through the current movies...
Yes.
Or Marvel Snap.
Yes. Which I think for most people is kind of how you consume Marvel. Like, the current setup of Marvel TV shows and movies is kind of like laid a foundation that is a bit hard to break.
Hard to break and also very much a pain in the ass to get caught up on, as I have learned.
It is.
Going through the entire franchise.
Yes. But I want you, dear listener, to erase this beautiful foundation from your mind, this collective pool of knowledge. Throw that sucker out the window, and I want you to imagine that with the exception of some TV shows, the only other Marvel movie to have come out before Howard the Duck was 1944's Captain America.
Yes and no. I'll get into that in just a second. Howard the Duck does hold a special regard.
It's special in more than one regard.
Yeah. So, Howard the Duck is directed by Willard Hook.
Hook?
I don't know.
I have no idea how to pronounce his name either.
Everyone in commentaries always refers to the other people by their first name.
So, Willard.
Yes.
Yeah.
With screenplay by Hook and Gloria Katz, and it's based on the characters by Steve Gerber and Val Merrick.
Yes.
It stars Ed Gale, Leah Thompson, Jeffrey Jones, and Tim Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
Hook prior to Howard the Duck, along with Katz, had done American Graffiti and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with George Lucas.
He was the writer for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was kind of the only place I was like, I know this man from that.
Yes. And this is something that will play into the origin of Howard the Duck itself, or the live action adaptation.
Oh, Howard.
And outside of those few movies, the pair haven't done a whole lot of work other than like their work with George Lucas.
Honestly, a lot of the list of people who worked on this movie, it's a fairly short and concise list of who's worked on what, with a very few handful of exceptions.
Yes. And as for Gerber and Merrick, they were the creators of Howard the Duck, and Howard the Duck is even kind of a spin-off on his own.
Yes.
He's a secondary character in Gerber's other series, Man-Thing, which I know a little bit about.
Yeah, so Howard the Duck from the get-go was meant to be a joke. Kind of like Squirrel Girl, but like has then evolved into having his own storyline and plot and characters and now movie.
Squirrel Girl is one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Snap game.
Howard the Duck has a lot of similarities to the origin of Squirrel Girl. Okay. Where like he was meant to be so over the top, so ridiculous, and just like kind of a joke all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I can see why that would be appealing to turn this character into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
However, again, remember, the Marvel world was not as developed as it is now. So it's not like we were jumping from like, oh, look at all of the like cool Iron Man movies and the Thor movies. Time for a funny, feel-good Marvel. No, we went straight into just like, tee.
We're in the olden days where like being a nerd was kind of heavily frowned upon by a lot.
And also it required so much more work to be said nerd.
Yes. And so when it comes to Howard himself, while I say Ed Gale plays Howard, there was a total of 8 people credited to the role, including Chip Zien as the voice, Tim Rose, Steve Sleep, Peter Baird, Mary Wells, Lisa Sturz, and Jordan Prentice, most of whom seem to be the animatronics people.
Yes.
And while I won't go into all of them, Gale was also Dink in Spaceballs, the little man in Oh Brother Where Art Thou,
Yep.
Station in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, as well as he was an uncredited hooded dwarf in Phantasm 2, Chucky in Child's Play, and the doll in Dolly Dearest.
I think he plays Chucky in a couple of instances.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how when doing research for this movie, just about every single person who worked on it was like, yeah, not super proud of Howard the Duck. Not my best moment in life, except for him.
Yeah, he had fun with this role.
He loved it. And I think one of the like interviews I found with him, he was quoted as saying, like, I got more fan mail for doing Howard the Duck than I did as Chucky.
Yeah, well, he went uncredited in Chucky, so of course no one's gonna know that unless you're...
That's true, but there is a weird, like, amount of people who are super fans of Chucky, who, like...
Sugi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who, are, like they do know him from it, whereas literally just about everyone else was like, yeah, we were in Howard the Duck. I would have chosen doing it if I had to do it again, or if I had known, but not Ed. Ed was like, hell yeah, that was so much fun. I loved being the duck.
I think a lot of people had fun with it, and I have something on that at the end of it.
Yeah,
so.
definitely.
But Zien is Mickey Alter in Snake Eyes, very underappreciated Nick Cage movie that Laufenstein finally got around to watching.
Very good.
But he's added quite a bit of number of odd pieces throughout his career.
Yeah, well, it's the 80s.
Yeah, but as for Leah Thompson, she is 100% better known as her role as Lorraine Baines in Back to the Future.
Yeah, definitely.
As well as she's Irene Steele in Left Behind.
Yeah, I had forgotten that, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also didn't realize that, like, I knew, but I hadn't made the connection that she's also in Beverly Hillbillies, which was a favorite of our family when I was a kid.
Jaws 3D as well.
I, again, forgot about that movie entirely until now.
Yeah, she's in quite a few.
Yeah, definitely, I think, rebounded the best.
Yep. As for Jones, he's been in so much, including Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Of course.
Which came out the same year as Howard the Duck. He was in Amadeus, Beetlejuice, The Hunt for Red October, Ed Wood, Stuart Little, Sleepy Hollow, Dr. Dolittle, and Deadwood, just to name a few.
Yes. Yeah, between Thompson and him, they are by, I think, the two that, like, stand out as far as, like, their careers didn't take a hit, necessarily, from Howard.
The next one, Robbins, didn't take a hit as well.
No, he did not.
Andy Dreyfuss in Shawshank Redemption, The President in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, Jacob and Jacob's Ladder, Twister, Top Gun, Mystic River, Zathura, and War of the Worlds, to name another few movies.
Yes, I also love, though, that one of the interviews that I found with him, he talked about how, like, he didn't hate working on Howard the Duck, but he also was really just here because it paid real good. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'll get into why it paid real good.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned earlier, Howard the Duck isn't the first Marvel movie. It is the first feature film based off of it.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, the first live-action adaptation goes to 1944's 15-chapter serial film Captain America, which is they're 15 minutes apiece.
Yeah, it felt much more like a bunch of TV shows squished together into one watching, as opposed to where Howard the Duck, runs like we expect a superhero movie to run.
Yes, and if you want a little bit more, we did go into a little bit of the history of serial film in our Lone Ranger review from, like 2 or 3 years ago now.
Yeah, but, I mean, Captain America had a very similar run to Lone Ranger, where it was, for the most part, episodic, short little snips, both in its written form and in its both listened, because I'm pretty sure it was on radio, and also on TV.
Yeah.
Whereas Howard the Duck, a lesser-known character, one might say.
I wouldn't have known about him if it wasn't for this movie or the fact that he's in Guardians of the Galaxy as a Easter egg.
Honestly, the only reason I think most people our age know about him is because he is in Guardians of the Galaxy as an Easter egg, and our parents went, hey, it's Howard the Duck.
Yeah, I mean, I brought this up to my mom when she asked what episode we were doing this week, and she's like, oh, I know of it. I don't think I've ever seen it. It was very popular when I was younger. That's a statement. Yeah. So our main sources for this episode are the documentary short A Look Back at Howard the Duck from 2009, as well as additional featurettes from the DVD, making of, all that good stuff.
Will not lie, for Marvel and Disney in general, is very prolific in re-releasing and re-updating and adding information to its backlog. With the exception of Howard the Duck.
Yes, for probably good reason. Yes, there is definitely good reason.
But it does crack me up that, like, normally when we go to buy these movies, or I say you buy these movies, you always do a really excellent job of hunting down the DVD version or the Blu-ray version that has, like, the most stuff to go with it. Mm-hmm. And while this DVD didn't have no stuff, which we've run into sometimes, for a Marvel plus Disney release that is very old, usually these suckers get re-released with, like, bonus features. Every 10 years there's a new version. There's a 25 anniversary, like, re-release that's very, like, common for Disney and Marvel owned property. Like, they re-release things with, like, new covers. There'll be, like, limited edition stuff. There'll be that fancy Blu-ray cover. Not Howard the Duck. This poor son made it past his 25th birthday under Marvel, and Marvel went, shh.
Well, there's reason for this too, and I'll get into that in just a minute. So, where did this abomination start?
That's a great question.
Like we mentioned earlier, Hook and Katz previously had worked on American Graffiti with Lucas. Mm-hmm. Lucas found the comics to be funny, and he liked the film noir and absurdist elements, and he thought it would make for a good movie. We also have to remember that George Lucas is still hot shit since The Return of the Jedi came out 3 years prior.
Oh yeah, no, like, people if he had an idea, people jumped on it.
Yes, and for this reason, this is why Howard the Duck was a hot item at the time.
This is the whole reason.
But there's a little bit more to it, and why I think part of the reason it failed a little bit.
Okay.
Originally, Howard the Duck was supposed to be an animated film,
which would have been delightful.
But Universal wanted a feature film for the summer, something that, honestly, I think Howard the Duck would have been better as an animated movie. Because remember, as we brought up in our previous episode, The Land Before Time came out a couple years after this as well.
Yes.
So that is the whole reason it's so well, like, or why it was a live action movie. But it's also why Marvel ignored it, because it's technically not a Marvel property. The same way they've ignored the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk, minus bringing in the villain for She-Hulk for some stupid fucking reason.
This is true, but yet they will not let Howard die because they shove him in as Easter eggs to backgrounds of places.
Yes.
So they know people like Howard.
They're aware that the movie has a cult following to it.
Yes, but they also would prefer that you maybe forgot about this film.
Yes, just a bit.
Just a little bit. The other thing is when you're watching this film, Howard, with the exception of the opening bit, which is on Howard's planet, Howard is the only thing that is not a person done with very standard special effects or CGI ability for this time.
Yes.
He looks so fucking out of place for the whole goddamn movie, despite being very impressive.
Yes. I'll get into that in just a little bit, because I do have some notes on why he's actually, like, technically he's a really well done
He's scary.
animatronic.
He's scary in the same way that roller coasters with really good animatronics that like don't have anything else going on.
He's a Chuck E. Cheese creature.
He's a Chuck E. Cheese creature. He looks Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't like that. But with that said, and I know we hadn't quite gotten there, but after you learn that this movie was originally conceptualized as a like drawn out thing, the first thing that came to my head was, boy, this movie would have been dope if it was like animation on top of live action.
Yeah.
Where he's the only drawn creature.
Kind of like how they did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which still haven't seen.
Yes.
As well as Cool World, which is another one on my list to see.
Okay. It is a travesty that you haven't seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but the fact that you haven't seen Cool World blows my mind because that is so fucking right up your alley. I'm amazed and in shock that you have not watched that thing.
I've been going down a bunch of other rabbit holes, so at some point I will.
Rabbit.
So before we get into Howard the Duck, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking undisclosed beer in a bottle from the fridge.
I'm not gonna undisclose. It's Bitburger.
It is Bitburger, but all of the beer from the movie, he's just like grabbing a random 80s bottle of beer. So, brown bottle of beer.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's so good.
So, Howard the Duck.
Oh, Howard the Duck.
We open on a city with 2 moons into a bachelor pad where immediately everything's off.
But also strikingly comically just a parody of normal New York.
And I want to go into like the level of detail just to name a handful of the things I was picking out.
Yes, please do.
So
there's so many fucking puns.
There's movie posters
all over the place.
Nest Fowls, My Little Chickadee. There's a postcard that says I missed your bill pressed against mine, which brings up a lot of questions.
Yeah, same.
Indiana Drake, Beakson Fowl Wars.
Yes.
Breeders of the Lost Ark, which confuses me to no end because I don't know if this movie is supposed to be a porn parody of Indiana Jones or if this is actually like their version of it.
Okay. This is the perfect spot to bring up the question that plagues Howard the Duck. Is Howard the Duck an adult film that has been censored down for children or a children's film that has too many adult puns put in it?
I'm gonna say, because it's what, rated PG-13?
Yeah, I think.
Let's look it up real quick. PG.
Somehow, some fucking how, this movie was rated PG.
PG-13 is just a new rating because Raiders of the Temple of Doom is the one that created the PG-13
So
rating.
we hadn't created... This movie would have been PG-13 if that had existed, though.
Yes.
I agree. However, the heart of Howard the Duck is an R character. He is meant to live in a Cool World style movie.
Yeah, his whole place is a bachelor pad. Like, he is
disgusting, like a nasty man, disgusting bachelor pad.
He is like their shitty version of Bruce Wayne. He's the millionaire, or he's not the millionaire. He's the sellout bachelor. He is the sellout bachelor,
and I am devastated that they toned Howard down as far as they did, because I, with my whole heart, believe that poster in the background is the porn parody of their duck version of that movie.
And here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to agree with you I'm going to say that Howard the Duck is an adult movie that because it didn't hit the hard R rating, there is no other way to rate it. So, of course, parents beware. Because, and I'll get into it just a minute, because there's some other shit in this scene too.
There's full tits in this movie.
They have...
they're duck tits.
Yes.
But they're tits.
They have Tyson's fried chicken still.
Yeah, they do.
Very bad gummy frogs in the fridge. Rolling egg.
Yep.
He has a pet fish for some reason.
That he feeds in the most 80s way you can possibly think.
Yes.
These fish live in an aquarium with like a single like leaf floating down there, and he takes the little shaker food and sprinkles it across the top and is like, there, fish fed, done.
Yep. Nope, exactly.
It's this 80th looking thing.
We also see in the background that Howard was part of Howard and the Heartbreakers.
You know, a clearly famous band.
And we're very quickly being shown this is Our World, but with ducks.
It is literally Our World, but with ducks. And it's great. I love it.
And here is the kicker that you brought up a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Play duck, but they put tits and pubic hair on a duck.
Yes.
Like, I've seen some fake titties,
and
these are the stiffest of the fake titties you will ever see.
Yes. I 100% agree. These are the sandbag titties from Wild Wild West.
Yes.
But with duck feathers glued to the front of them. But they still have nipples. It's not like super cartoony, like, oh, there's mounds and the illusion. No, these are boobs with feathers taped to them.
Let's it definitely gives a whole different meaning to DuckTales.
Yes. 100%. Yes. There is a lot of questions that Howard the Duck raises that, again, I'm only very briefly, like, familiar with the comics, but I do remember the comic being, like, aggressively more adult than the movie. Like, the movie's background is on point, and then Howard himself is just, like, somehow a normal guy.
Yeah, there was just so much detail that they
put
into all of this.
And it's kind of only the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Because Howard's World is great. It is the biggest parody, and it's Spaceballs level parody.
Which we'll get into that at the end too.
Which makes a lot of sense, and I love it. I know that we weren't originally even supposed to see Howard's World, like when the writer was talking about how, like, oh, well, we thought about just having him start on Earth and not explain any of this. I'm like, no, I want more time on Howard's Earth.
Yeah, Universal forced them to add Duck World, which
I love Duck World.
It should be noted, Peter Jamison did the design of Duck World, but would later work on movies such as Halloween 3,
delight,
Jeepers Creepers 2, Black Sheep, the 93 version of Body Snatchers, RoboCop 2,
hell yeah,
and Point Break.
So, like, these are all good. These are all wonderful details.
Yeah, but none of it matters.
Not
because
a single fucking bit.
Immediately as Howard sits down and after looking at duck tits, he
like opens the magazine and then is thrown backwards.
Sucked through his building through a sky asshole.
He is. Oh, there's more duck tits in this scene
yes,
as well.
Yeah. He's not just like pulled, like magically pulled through. He is ripped through his apartment building.
And he lives on, like, if he lives on the right side of the building, he is pulled through all of the walls, through all, like, 6 apartment buildings.
Yep.
Like, all 6 apartment rooms, to the other side of the building, and then launched into the sky.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. Like, there's no point that tells you, hey, he can't get away.
He just sits there and lets it happen.
Yeah, he doesn't even try, which, I mean, to be fair, he does seem tired with his life, but...
Yeah, like... But at the same time, they don't really go into, like, if Howard is not happy in Duck World. Yet. I do feel like we could have, explained a little more, because there's so many details in this.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, there are a, handful of, like, little bits that maybe kind of allude to maybe he's not happy, but there's not, like, a clear, like, oh, Howard has been dumped multiple times. Howard's career is not just dead, but, like, it died horribly. Like, there's none of that.
No, if anything, we've seen Howard is the one who is the man whore.
Yes. No, Howard's life seems great. Howard just is an ass and stupid.
Yes.
Is what I have learned from Duck World.
Yes. And so this is where we get our first iteration of the multiverse.
Yes.
And what is the purpose of any of this narration? Because they're narrating, like, across the galaxies, there's a million possibilities.
As one does.
It just doesn't add anything to the movie at all.
It doesn't, but I love that, just, again, like you said, like, this isn't technically Marvel, but, like, it is. Marvel saw this silly voiceover bit and was like, you know what if we kept that? What if we did that in, like, half of our movies?
Yeah, now that you point it out,
Yeah, it's like in an absurd amount, even if it's not necessarily like random narrator voice. Sometimes it's just like the main character.
It's how Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania begins.
Yeah. Yeah.
God damn it! I'm gonna have to go through a handful of these because no, Iron Man doesn't start like that. Iron Man is in the.
They start with rock music.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's at least one of the Thors.
Probably a good chunk of them. I don't remember.
It's been a while since I watched the older ones.
It's been a year.
So but I do distinctly remember not necessarily random narrator voice, but at least someone has some narrator voice. And I think at some point they tried to have that be a character, the narrator to an extent, but we've moved on from that, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because immediately after he gets flung to Earth, he crashes in Cleveland on a different sofa.
I do appreciate that he doesn't just crash into Cleveland, he crashes into punk rock Cleveland. Yeah,
through billboards and everything, where he's immediately assaulted by the rejected Lost Boys.
Yes,
who,
I fucking love the background characters of this movie. They make no goddamn sense. I love them.
This whole part makes no sense.
I fully agree, but I want this.
Because here's the thing. They pick him up, throw him into a club because, oh, hey, we found your date, where he immediately gets thrown out of the club into a homeless lady's shopping cart.
Yeah, that's her house. He gets thrown into the homeless lady's shopping cart house.
And assaulted by her. Yes. And then he has to run away from a group of bikers called Satan's Sluts.
I fucking love Satan Sluts because it very much looks like the lead Satan Slut gang member is a drag queen.
They all look like they would fit in with Necropolis.
Oh, no, and not even just that, all of the background people look like they are here for the punk rave party, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, the first song in the movie is playing called Hunger City.
Yes.
Which, by the way, almost, if I remember right, pretty much this entire soundtrack is full of original songs.
Pretty much all of it. And then most of it was written by John Barry. Some of it was written by Silverstein Levia? I'm not sure. And a lot of the pieces that are sung by this band Cherry Bomb, who you know well, because you've seen other Marvel films.
Yeah. But, I mean, none of this makes any sense, because they're trying to make the city feel dangerous, but it feels like what a Midwestern mom would be afraid of if your child goes to any city outside of the Midwest.
This is exactly what my mother imagined the city looked like. And it wasn't even Chicago, it was downtown Kansas City. I guarantee you this is what she thought it looked like in the 90s. I don't know if she ever saw this movie. I highly doubt she has ever seen this movie. This is not her vibe at all. This is my dad's vibe, though. I'll have to ask him if he's seen this one. But on top of all of that, there is a strange amount of immediate 80s club and live music scene knowledge that you are required to know as the audience member to even remotely understand what is going on.
Zero knowledge.
Okay.
Most of my punk rock knowledge is from the old East-West Coast punk and UK punk.
So the whole reason he's kidnapped in the first place is because you need a date to get in. So it's not just all dudes or all girls. You are required to have a date, and one of them doesn't have a date. And so they kidnap Howard the Duck and bring him as a date because he's a duck, and no one can tell. First off, the front door bouncer is just yeah, all right, you got a duck now.
They let him in for 5 seconds
and then they're like, oh, no children allowed. I love that this is supposed to be the realistic portrayal of Howard. What you see as the audience is what everyone else in this world is supposed to be seeing, right? And throughout this movie, multiple times, multiple people look at this creature in the eyes and go, that is a child in a duck suit.
Yeah, no,
this would have been better if it was legitimately a child in a duck suit.
And that's probably one of the stupidest things is no one is fazed by Howard at all.
No, no one is even mildly upset by Howard.
No, not even.
The only upset they get is when it's hey, you can't bring your pet in here, looking at a 3'2" inches tall duck and saying that's a pet. It is wearing an outfit.
I will say you are wrong. There are a couple people in this movie who are annoyed with Howard.
There are a handful of people who are not drunk or on drugs in this movie, and they're the only ones who see Howard and are like, the hell is that? And one of them is the homeless lady.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think she would have attacked anyone who ran into her shopping cart.
I agree, but the fear in her eyes made me think that this actress had just seen this costume for the first time.
Oh, scratch that. There is the other couple who get scared because he's feeling up her leg.
Yes, he, is just interrupting their adventures in the alley.
Yeah, because Howard has palms.
Yeah, no, featherless hands.
On the bottom of them.
Yeah, no, he's got, fingers and everything. And
yeah.
I think the front, I even, noted that he has fingernails.
Yeah.
Because he also plays the guitar later.
You don't need fingernails to play the guitar.
I have been informed by many people that it is helpful to have a fingernail to play the guitar.
Not required. There's people who play it with, one finger.
That's true. But I am fairly certain that Howard not only has palms as a duck, but also fingernails.
Yeah, but...
This is upsetting.
Despite how dangerous this city is, it's nothing other than to introduce us to Cherry Bomb. Which,
I love Cherry Bomb.
To also note, the original idea was to set this movie in Hawaii, and when they did choose the punk scene, at least they didn't choose the UK, because gobbing would have been disgusting.
Yeah. Also, from what I could find, the entire reason they originally wanted to film this in Hawaii is because they thought it'd be fun to film there.
Yeah.
Which, now that I look at it, I have a very hard time imagining what this film would look like in Hawaii. I can imagine Howard in Hawaii.
Yeah.
No problem. That actually works better. Literally any of the other characters in Hawaii don't work. The girlfriend? No. She would be the weird emo child that you bring on vacation.
If they restructured it,
the whole movie would have to change.
She would be the bartender or something that everyone's hitting on.
At the tiki bar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love it.
I don't love it either, no.
I am so much happier with this disgusting version of Chicago that doesn't exist.
Cleveland, thank you very much.
Sorry, Cleveland, Ohio, that doesn't exist.
But, yeah, I mean, I guess the point of setting up the danger is because the guitarist and lead singer of the Cherry Bombs is harassed by some punks who is saved by Howard and his quack foo after he's done hiding in his dumpster.
No, that is another side bit that we saw at the very beginning that, they briefly flash and then you have to just, remember back, is that he's, a black belt in duck kung fu.
Quack foo.
Thank you. It is, briefly, he briefly has a picture of him graduating his duck kung fu academy.
I don't know. He's the Chuck Norris that never made it as a movie star.
Yes. I 100% believe that is what he was meant to be, and they just don't explain that. And, the background art and character design, they're like, no, we'll handle it later.
Yes.
And then, my favorite part is they wanted Howard to be more approachable for the general audience. So they took Howard, and they got rid of two of his main characteristics. In the comics, what I do know about Howard is incredibly obnoxious and incredibly rude. And they took both those characteristics and just yeeted them out the window.
For shame.
And they did this on purpose. The writer was like, no, he needs to be a little bit more approachable. He can't be that terrible.
I mean, I get that.
I know, I get it too. And it's the 80s. And we clearly weren't going for an adult film. Because, again, this is the 80s, and, you could get away with a lot more in the 80s than you could now.
Yeah.
At least for, a kid's movie.
Well,
and quote-unquote kid's movie.
Less than what you could in the earlier days, like Hell House had us full frontal nudity despite being rated PG.
Yeah, that was a choice.
This one also has
it has full frontal duck nudity.
Side duck nudity.
The shower duck is facing forward.
But you don't see the bush.
I don't know. She does just sing through the whole...
She's in the bath.
She's in the bathtub. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so we just see the top half.
Yes.
Of said duck. No humans though, so it's fine.
I I watched this movie for the first time this year.
Uh-huh. It's
Not
mind-blowing,
knowing
isn't it?
anything about it. And yes, it was like, the moment the duck tits came out, I'm like, what the fuck did we choose to watch?
The duck tits should have set the standard for what Howard was meant to be. Howard was meant to be unbearable and rude. And instead, Howard is a normal, nice guy who happens to be the lead singer in a band that has since disbanded. Also, he does Chuck Norris level kung fu, but like not Jackie Chan style, Chuck Norris kung fu. So let's not get those confused. He's kind of a nice guy, but also is he's still insufferable enough that he like has trouble being in the world.
I wouldn't even say he's a nice guy. He's kind of an asshole to everyone.
He is. He's meant to be more, though.
Yeah.
He's meant to be the rudest of rude.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, like, he's meant to be insufferable.
Still kind of is.
He's still terrible, but, like, for a different reason. Like, the portrayal of him, very briefly, the handful of seconds that you see him in Guardians of the Galaxy cameo, that is what Howard was meant to be this whole time.
Okay.
Drink a cosmopolitan in one hand, bitches on the other.
And a stogie in his beak.
That is what he was meant to be.
Well, one thing I do want to mention is early on in the movie, the size and costume change is quite drastic because, and it's pretty bad.
Oh, it's real noticeable.
This was because originally Howard was supposed to be portrayed by a 12-year-old boy, but scheduling became complicated, and Ed Gale eventually just took on as being full-time Howard.
Not gonna lie, you can, not just because of the height change, but also like the acting-wise, you can very much tell. I prefer Ed's performance because the child one very much feels like a child in a duck costume, whereas Ed's feels like an adult man who is 3'2" tall.
That's probably why they make so many jokes about a child in a duck costume, and they just never wrote it out of the script.
That would make so much more sense. That would have been so much funnier.
I'm guessing that's exactly what happened.
That would have been hilarious, because, like, yeah, the rest of the time you're like, this clearly is not a child. Like, he doesn't walk like a child, he doesn't talk like a child. No. Granted, he's not as over the top as, like, he could have been as far as, like, but he's, like, at no point does he carry himself like a child.
No, not at all. And this is where I wanted to talk about the costume a little bit.
I have a love-hate relationship with how Howard the Duck looks.
So, Howard the Duck, I guess, was rigged with a lot of technical problems, getting everything to sync up and work together.
He is a marvel that he functions at all.
The costume kept losing feathers, and parts were constantly exploding. But
he looks good, doesn't he?
Yeah,
like, in a terrifying way, he looks good.
Well, and on top of that, this is an early self-contained animatronic suit, so...
Yes. It's not like it's not like when they zoom out, there's a different head that doesn't move. When the actor's walking around and then they zoom in and no, like, it's a full encompassing, like, it's impressive.
Yeah, they had one person on eyes, one person on mouth. The voice was actually added later, and they said the lip syncing was some of the most complicated stuff they've done. But also, Gale was blind during all of this, and he did all of his role from memory.
And literally the only scene that you can, like, very clearly tell that he can't see is when they're having him go down the steps outside of, like, the first time he visits the scientists. He, like, very slightly slips down the stairs, and that was, in my moment, I went, oh yeah, that's a man in a suit and he can't see where he's going.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the only time that you notice. Because, like, he grabs beers out of the fridge like a champ. Like, he walks around these stupid, like, complicated sets. There is junk everywhere. You would not know that he can't see. He does a great job.
Exactly. But as terrifying as he is
terrifying.
Beverly, the lead singer of the Cherry Bombs, is nonchalant about talking to a space duck that just saved her life, or I don't know.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about Beverly.
She is the reason I watched the Bee movie in its entirety for the first time last
I understand
month.
that. I understand that completely. I love the character design. She's over the top. She has way too much of everything going on all the time.
Very hair rock.
Yes, and I love that.
Glam rock.
It is glam rock, yes. Or at least we would call it that now. It was definitely punk back then, and, like, since has turned into, like, glam punk rock sort of style, where, like, she has elements of punk. There's a lot of glam going on. The actress, Leah, said that, like, her biggest regret was not wearing her wig for this movie.
Yeah.
Because it took her 2 hours every day to get her hair done.
Screw that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Like, I would rather just shave it all off and, like, be the shaved head character for the movie. But good on her. She looks great. My, like, trouble with this is they never really give us a clear picture of, like, who she is.
She's the side piece.
She is the side piece, but, like, first off, she looks really young. She looks questionably young to be with 27-year-old Howard the Duck, whose prosthetic beak does not make him look 27.
I thought Howard the Duck was maybe like in his 30s.
I also thought that too.
Maybe 40 something.
The only reason I know Howard's age is because you can look it up.
And it's in the trailer for the movie.
Yes, that is literally the only way to tell that this duck is not in his mid to late 30s.
Man, having a midlife crisis at 27.
The 80s were a different place.
You talk about it like it was the Middle Ages, where it's like,
it is.
He in his 20s, he should have been a man. He should have had a wife and kids and a farm with cows and shit.
You're not wrong. In the 80s, by this point, he should have definitely been married with 2.5 kids in a 2-story home with at least 3.5 bedrooms.
Yeah, if he was in his 30s in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s. I mean, like, this is the time period when, like, people aged faster back then, I think.
This was very much the latchkey kid generation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Howard missed that boat.
Howard was a generation before that.
This is true.
Well, we don't even we
don't know how the generations work for ducks.
Yeah, we're comparing Howard's upbringing to a human upbringing.
This is true, but that was like the entire point of Howard. Like originally was like you were just supposed to accept that everything he was and is and does is a parody, and like move on with that, and like don't think about it too much. So yes, generations exist. Accept it. Yes, they are also eggs. Accept it. Don't worry about it. Don't question how it works.
And yet there's fried chicken.
Yes,
and,
again, don't worry about how it works.
To be fair, I have fed pigeons turkey and they will eat anything.
Pigeons are sweet, dumb little sky cats. They don't know.
I'm sure I could feed turkey to a lot of different birds and they'd eat it.
I have no doubt that you could also feed cat to Hobbs and Hobbs would eat it.
To be fair, Hobbs is a fat ass. So.
Hobbs is a fat dumbass, and she's beautiful and sweet, but she would eat it.
Yeah.
Howard and Hobbs might have the same level here of thought behind the eyes.
No.
You think Hobbs is worse?
You've even coined that my cat share one brain cell.
This is true, and Hobbs never gets to borrow it.
Yeah, she has it more than Charlie.
Today, definitely.
But yeah,
yeah, like there's just not a lot to her. Like she doesn't have any real like trouble. Like it's kind of implied that she does because she lives in a warehouse.
But not.
But like she kind of likes it.
Yeah, her. I'll get into her place in just a second.
Yeah, because it's interesting.
Because we'll get there real soon. Because poor Howard is out in the rain, but Beverly invites him home, and I hate this kind of moment in a movie where like he's like, "Oh, you mean me? Who else is she going to invite? You are the only one underneath that awning or underneath that opening in a building with her."
This whole movie is very cringy.
Oh my god,
all of these supposed romancy bits are heart-wrenchingly cringy. Not even like the cute like 51st Dates level cringy. Just in like that, oh, no, I don't want to go home with you sort of cringy.
In the B-movie
cringy, yes.
Yeah.
B-movie romance cringy. Where, like, you question how these two are together at all.
Yeah. I'll get into it in a scene a little bit later. But we are introduced to Beverly a little bit more at her place as she's a young punk rocker trying to make it out there, but it's hard because her manager's a scumbag. He takes all their money.
See,
Beverly's place is kind of cool.
Beverly's place is real cool. Okay, if we had, like, gone on with, like, how that affects Beverly and her life and her band, I would have been happy with that backstory. I still feel like she's gotta have some questions about Beverly, but no. Instead, we are just told that via Beverly. And then just we let that fact go to the wind so that Howard can boo-hoo be sad by him, like, about how he's not home where he wasn't happy anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because this whole scene is weird, too, because she offers him a bowl of milk like he's some kind
Stray
of pet.
cat?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, she 100%, like, and she, like, regularly says, like, I don't think I have a pet policy, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I've never had a pet before. And yet she's having a full conversation with him. And then offers him a beer.
Well, no, he asks for a beer, and she's like, "Oh, you drink beer?" He's
Yeah,
like,
it's...
Yeah.
And, like, I could get behind this concept if everyone else in the world also treated Howard like he was a normal, standard duck, and Howard saw himself as this walking, talking man. But no one else seems to really do that. It's just her.
Their entire relationship is...
Questionable.
No. Their entire relationship is, if you give a space duck a beer...
Will he leave? Yeah. The answer is no, he won't leave.
No, that's the entire thing of this entire movie.
You could easily write a Give a Space Duck a Beer book for children, yes.
Yeah, which, I mean, on top of that, like, Howard is adjusting quite well to being in the world of the naked ape. Minus his...
Howard doesn't panic nearly as hard as I thought he would.
No, the only time he panics in this movie is when he's having his Vietnam-style flashback over the train rumbling...
And even then, he gets over it really fast.
Yeah. But we learn a bit more about Howard. We learn he's a sellout duck. Sometimes you just have to face the music, and he now just works for an advertisement agency.
Yeah.
Coming up with shitty slogans.
But again, we kind of don't really get into either of these characters' backstories. Like, we are very briefly told it by each character, and then the rest of the trouble with the movie is Howard's existential crisis of being on the wrong planet.
Yes.
Forget everyone else's troubles. Forget Beverly's troubles with her manager up until it becomes important for plot, and also Howard.
Even the plots for that is just...
It's really more convenient for Howard to get bitches.
Yes, exactly. Because Howard doesn't know this, but we know it now because... Beverly decides to go through his wallet, where we see a little bit more about Duck World.
Okay, these are the details, though.
Yes, because one, he has on his driver's license must wear corrective lenses. Which is Howard wearing contacts this whole time, or not just wearing glasses?
I would like to think he is wearing corrective contacts
the whole time.
But he never takes them out. So unless he is as terrible with his eyes as my husband, he is blind this entire time.
Also, we learned that Howard was living in Washington, D.C.
Adorable, I love it.
The money with the duck on his face looks so bad. The duck founding father, too.
Okay, but it legit just looks like Benjamin or George Washington. Like, all of the dollar bills just look like they took George Washington and slapped a duck bill onto him. They didn't even, like, redraw him into duck shape.
Not really.
They just, same hair, same eyes, duck bill. And I love that. That is the peak of the humor for this movie.
Yeah. But then on top of that, she pulls out an opened condom.
A very tiny open condom.
Which
also begs to question, like, did they know how big Howard was supposed to be, like how big the costume was going to be throughout the whole movie? Because it does feel a little bit like the prop department didn't really know what they were going to be working with.
Yeah, because, like, they pull it out, and, like, it's not even in his case. It's a free flowing condom.
Free rolling.
But also,
this was a missed opportunity for some really great, like, puns on the outside of a condom wrapper for a duck.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious.
But also, from what I know of duck anatomy...
Again, you just have to accept that this is compatible.
Does Howard have a duck dick, or does he have a person dick?
According to the duck boobs on the other duck, I'm going with person dick and not duck dick.
That is somehow more terrifying than the corkscrew penis of a duck.
Yes, I agree completely.
That is...
Yeah. Everything that we have seen so far says that Howard is a normal man who is shaped like a duck.
Yeah.
Like, very loosely shaped like a duck. Real roughly.
Yeah. And, I mean, on top of that, like, the relationship, like, Beverly says something. She says, "What am I going to do with you, Ducky?" She's already given him a nickname. This movie has gone from complete strangers a minute ago to wanting to have his ducklings in 10 minutes. Not even 10 minutes.
But you also forget the part where we stopped in at the valley of "you might be my pet," and then re-exited 30 minutes later into "maybe we should be boyfriend and girlfriend."
I want to bang a duck.
This is a terrifying roller coaster. I want off.
Yeah,
this is porno plots move slower than this plot. This is the most wild, like, from point A to point B we have ever seen. Only because we make a pit stop in the "you might be my pet" territory. And not in the fun tee-hee sort of way.
There are some anime plots that dip off in that.
Anime doesn't count. Anime has never counted. Anime's entire goal in life is to not count.
It counts in some regards.
They are to skew the spectrum. The grading curve is messed up by anime.
I'll give you that.
Everyone else is now being held to being better relationship standards than Howard the Duck.
Well, that's not a far stretch.
Look, if a Hallmark movie during Christmas can take longer to build the tension between their characters than Howard the Duck's movie, you know you've done something wrong.
They've skipped everything and just like, yep, we're gonna do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the morning, Beverly is off to take him to a scientist in a trash bag, which this is when I was starting to realize, like, no one in this movie acts like a real person.
No, not a single
because
person.
The taxi driver is just like, okay, cool, you're talking to someone in a trash bag, and everyone's like watching her drag this trash bag up the stairs.
Again, this is where I think the fact that they didn't know where they wanted this movie to be located hurts them. If this had been a New York City taxi cab driver, I could have bought that. I could have bought the whole, like, stereotype, like, oh, they've seen everything. You know, this is nothing new to them. As long as you pay them and get out and don't puke on the back seat, you're good. But we're in Cleveland, Ohio, and I don't know how weird Cleveland, Ohio in the 80s gets for taxi cabs.
I don't know.
I don't know either, because also it's not even like it's just a trash bag. She has cut holes, like, all over the trash bag so he doesn't suffocate. Which is kind of her. I appreciate that. But also, like, I have questions. And also, she doesn't let him, like, walk. She, like, drags him like he is, like, actual garbage out of the, like, cab door and then up the stairs. She's just like bonk, 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 bonk right up the stairs with Howard in a bag.
Yeah, no.
And a random man goes, "Ma'am, do you need help with that?" And she's like, no.
I'm good.
While Howard is actively talking to her from the trash bag.
No one is a person in this movie. Like,
these are all NPCs.
That explains why no one's surprised by
this entire world is inhabited by NPCs.
Except for the next person we're about to meet.
I love him dearly.
Philip.
I love Philip.
Or Phil, whatever his name is.
I call him scientist because that's what he wants to be. But he's actually like a janitor.
He's an intern.
But this is the 80s, so intern doesn't mean like what it means nowadays. This was, hey kid, go get me my coffee, sweep the floor, lick my shoe.
You'll be lucky if we take you out to lunch once a month.
And this is probably an unpaid intern.
Yeah. Well, so Phil is supposed to be like this science person that he's the one who's going to examine Howard the Duck.
Yes.
And just the way he goes about him, he automatically assumes that he's from like a sci-fi movie. Yes. And has all these like amazing superpowers, mind reading, but then derails and starts talking to him like Donald the fucking Duck.
Yes. I feel like a huge part of this movie that was meant to be there but is missing is the drugs that encompassed the 80s punk scene. Because wouldn't this character make so much more sense if he was a stoner? Wouldn't this guy make so much more sense if he was really into alien conspiracies?
Yes, he would.
Yeah.
Which, he kind of leads that off, but the thing is, too, like, They never explain him of, like,
they don't explain how Beverly knows this man.
They don't for, like, another, like, 20 minutes, because...
And even then, you forget immediately that they actually know each other.
Yeah.
It's like they both went to the same elementary school and called it a day.
Because, like, Howard gets pissed and he's like, alright, well, I'm gonna leave, and Beverly's just like, yes, we'll leave too. You took him here!
Yeah. Also, like, it's done in such a way that it makes it seem like Beverly knows this guy. And then she, like, backs up and is like, no, I don't actually know him. I just know that he's into science. So I thought science... Like, again, I feel like we're all meant to be a little bit drunk or like stoned or something to like be able to make these ridiculously stupid logic like explanations, and yet everyone is perfectly fine. Not only with the fact that Howard exists, but also like just in general.
Yeah,
it's very confusing.
It's very good to shut your mind off and not think about this.
It is a lot, because also doesn't he like bust in during an actual scientist's presentation?
Yeah.
And then like immediately backs out? I'm like, no, you have found an actual alien. Interrupt that meeting.
No, he doesn't do it because he wants all the credit himself.
Which I understand that logic, but we have already written into the movie that he busts into a different, like, into this other place. It doesn't have any comedic timing.
No.
It's not funny. It doesn't add anything.
Yeah, it just happens. Like, he busts in there and then returns right back to Howard.
He, like, just closes the door, too. He's like, never mind. JK. Yeah. Sorry.
Exactly.
It's so strange.
Well, and even as they're trying to leave, they add some additional exposition to try and explain Howard the Duck's existence, that, his planet, they must have evolved from ducks, and ducks became the primary...
I was okay with this explanation. I was not okay with the fact that, like, it makes no sense coming in this scene.
No. It's just pointless. There's so much in this that doesn't need to be there.
And also, like, we already know this explanation because we saw Howard's homeworld. We know that he comes from a world full of ducks.
Well, Howard even says, like, yeah, no, duh, we teach this in grade school.
Everyone knows this.
Yeah, it's just...
It's not necessary.
No, and the diagram's really dumb.
The diagram is a little funny, though.
Yeah, this is where I also learned that Phil's not an actual scientist.
No, he's...
Full scientist.
He is the equivalent of a janitor. Because they then immediately tell him to go sweep.
Yeah, he very much feels like a lesser version of Green Goblin.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat of a scientist myself.
Yeah, but the only science he does is looking at other science while he cleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it's not even, like, he's a smart guy. He's not.
No.
At all. The fact that they haven't fired him from this unpaid internship is a miracle.
They probably haven't fired him because he's willing just to put up with their shit.
But it's also the 80s. Someone, surely, will take his unpaid internship from him. An actual science person.
Yeah.
Again, if he had been, like, really into alien conspiracies and, like, that's why he was here and all that, I would have bought this character so much more.
Yeah, if he was,
like, off the rails.
I would have bought him more if he was, like, one of Mulder's informants.
Yes,
from X-Files.
I want early days Mulder, not even, like, later season Mulder. I want, like, season 1 Mulder.
I'm talking if he was the guys that Mulder calls to get in touch with some additional information.
I want them. I want, like, his quote-unquote office is the janitor, and he's, like, made a desk out of some egg crates and a piece of wood. That would have sold this character to me.
Yeah, that would have made it so much better.
Agreed.
But we do kind of get that group.
The smallest bit.
Smallest bit.
We could have gone farther.
We'll get to that shortly, because Howard is pissed off. He's, I
feel like this is the only time where Howard's emotions make sense.
They do, too, because, like, Beverly tries to also make it all about her career as well.
Not to diss Howard at all, but we do ignore Beverly's wants and needs throughout the whole movie.
Because that's all she is.
I understand that. However, like, it doesn't balance super great.
She's the cherry bomb.
That's hilarious, but yes.
Yes. But Howard is off to find a job, which...
I love how Howard just so confidently is like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna go get a job.
Which, the employer, what's the term? Person who's helping him find the job?
Oh, yeah, like the job hunt place.
Yeah, this is the part too where it's like she brings up like you're the problem child, that's why they always send them to me, because I will always get you a job. You think you're unemployable with all of that face modification you've done? It's like
no one seems to actually be looking at Howard at all.
No.
Because you can't look at this character in any capacity and think, yes, face modification.
And they even bring up the cheese line. You're going to take to this job like a duck to water.
Okay, but that is good. That's the level of comedy I wanted for the whole movie. And instead we get a lot of like, oh, it's a child in a duck suit.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want duck puns. I want uncomfortable amount of duck puns.
I would have liked him more, but I will tell you, in Bravely Second, there's a part of the game where you're in a hot tub town, and everyone is there is so many puns. Like, almost every goddamn sentence is a pun at that part.
Hell yes.
And it's awful.
Yes, that's the level of awful I would have been more okay with. Instead of this. Instead of whatever happened.
No, you wouldn't have. Because that's also the B movie.
But think about it. The B movie altered an entire generation's brain chemistry with how terrible and punny it was.
I'm sure it awoken other things, like I'm sure Howard the Duck did for some as well.
That's true. But also, I feel like if Howard the Duck was now, there would have been more puns.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Because isn't there like an edit of the B movie where every time they have a B pun, they like replay the movie but slightly faster?
No, it's every time they say B, it's faster. So every time they say the letter B.
Yes.
Or B.
That's the level of stupidity that Howard should have strided for.
True.
That was who they should have been advertising
Instead, they went with the stupidity of like everyone just accepts that this duck is here, which I get.
You gotta lean in. You gotta really commit to the bit.
Yeah.
You have a duck looking for a job.
Maybe that's the thing, because they really don't commit to it at all.
There's really not.
But Howard goes to his job, and what the hell even is this job? What is this place? Is it just like some fuck resort in a strip mall?
No idea. I also questioned how Howard fell back to doing this, because from what we saw in the plaques and like later on dialogue, we know that Howard went to med school for a while. Howard had his own band, knows some stuff about being the manager of bands, did that for a little bit, and then eventually will do that for a bit. Ran a successful career doing something else. There's like that in the background somewhere. Like, Howard's not stupid. Howard might be lazy, but Howard's not stupid.
Yeah.
So Howard's now doing this? Why not? I don't know.
It's fine.
It's whatever.
But they even hire him as like the water expert.
That is funny.
Which...
That's a little funny.
What even the fuck is a water expert?
I have no idea. As someone who does not care about where their water comes from or what it tastes like, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It's even such a short-lived part, too, because he throws him in the tub with customers.
Yes.
Who are... If this was any other movie, I would have said this was a porn shoot.
Yeah. And again, it feels like it was meant to have been one, and then they were like, wait, nope, we forgot. We've advertised for children.
Yeah, we also found that Howard can't swim.
That is funny, though.
It's a bit, yeah.
Like, the only reason I think it's funny is because they replay this bit just enough for it to, like, be reminded, like, for you to remember it, but they never purposefully, other than this scene, are, like, throwing Howard into water. Like, they're not just constantly chucking him into the lake.
No, and it's a stupid moment that doesn't really
it eventually leads up to the end. And that's the only reason I give it a pass, is it is a little funny that the duck can't swim.
Yeah, or fly.
I will give them the fly bit because we did get rid of the feathers for wings. Like, that, evolutionally speaking, makes sense. But, like, we know that other ducks swim on Duck World. Howard just doesn't know how to swim. It's just Howard.
But it's just a stupid short-lived part, because poor Howard's on the street again, which we get the only realistic person in this movie.
Yes. Correct.
He's just walking down the road, minding his own business, and a bus drives by, and some dude's like, "That's a duck!
That is the best part.
That's a duck, man!"
That is the most accurate actual human, and I am kind of sad that there's not more of this man.
No. Yeah, it's frustrating, because it's quickly pushed aside as Howard finds out there's duck hunting season.
That's a little dumb. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, Howard's not supposed to be stupid. So, like, Howard knows that, like, he has seen at least, I would hope, has Googled a picture of what ducks here look like.
It's the 80s.
Yeah, it can't be that hard, though.
And also, he's been here, like, a day. He's gone from...
That's true.
He's gone from being harassed,
of this movie is...
moving in with a chick, being harassed again, finding a job, losing said job, in probably a 2-3 day time frame.
That's a good point. The movie doesn't really explain how much time has passed, and I, in my stupidity, had thought that like a month had gone by. But you're right. It's probably been like 2 days.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
exactly.
No, good point. Good point.
Because he's immediately just wandering Cleveland until he finds the club that Cherry Bomb's playing at again. And also this song she's singing, is this her singing it? I'm sure it's one of their songs, but it just seems like she wants to screw the duck even more. It's like...
Yes.
Yeah.
See, okay, I know you said that it's one of their older songs. I think this is a song that she came up with, like, yesterday, and they have immediately added it to the docket.
Yeah.
Because it's awkward as hell.
Yeah, it's...
But, like, okay, so again, all the music was, like, specifically written to be 80s punk style, and specifically for the movie. And all of it was meant to be, like, adding to this, like, lore of, like, yeah, she's into the duck.
Should also add that all the ladies learn to play their instruments and actually perform the songs themselves.
Yes. So, like, it's all being performed as authentically as one could.
Yeah.
For the circumstances of said talking duck.
Yeah, it's another moment that doesn't really add anything to the movie.
Because, again, she has known this duck for less than 24 hours. Because he's moved out from living with her, as far as we can tell. But we don't know. We have no idea where Howard sleeps at night.
Howard probably went to the job office, got the job, and this is his first night back.
That's true. She has seen Howard for, like, awake. She has seen Howard for maybe 8 hours.
Yes. And immediately, Howard also is kind of...
yeah.
I don't think it really ever shows it till the end, but, like, Howard confronts their sleazy manager, and this fight is just so dumb because no one's shocked by a talking duck, and they refer to him as, "Oh, you knew you were going to run into these types of people in this entertainment, or these entertainment types."
I would like to know what other entertainment types these people have run into. That's the movie I wanted to watch.
I think it's supposed to be kind of a slur that...
I get what the writers were trying to imply, but in my very literal brain, I assume that there are other animal-shaped people running around trying to be on stage in the back punk scene of Ohio.
This is our third duck this week.
This is so much better than the tiger that came in yesterday. He was terrible. He couldn't sing at all. Like, that would be interesting. But, yeah, no, like, it's played off as, like, a really bad little people joke.
Yeah, or
even, like, they run into a lot of furries? Question mark?
I don't know.
I have no idea. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, none of this movie makes sense, because even the bar brawl's really dumb. Like, the fight's all on the table itself.
Yes.
The dude's straight up gonna kill Howard.
That is at least more intense than it has been. Because, again, Howard is Chuck Norris-style kung fu.
Try holding that up in court. I killed a space duck. Well, there's technically no laws against it.
It is duck season, it's fine. Well, he didn't have a permit. It's a fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, what, a $300 fine?
I have no clue.
I have no idea how much
hunting.
I have no idea how much. Well, I don't know if Howard counts as like an endangered species or not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, and another thing that adds nothing to it is, like, the way Howard gets out of the fight is he says he's gonna bite them and give them space rabies.
I like that, though. That's creative.
It's so dumb, though.
It's very dumb, but it's better than the duck foo that he's been doing.
True, but somehow it gets him. He
gets their money.
Gets the money, gets the manager to be like, oh yeah, no, I won't represent them anymore.
I do appreciate that in true 80s legalese movie logic fashion, he just announces to the club, like, hey, y'all are my witnesses, I'm not their manager anymore. And, like, that's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah, no legal contract.
Yeah, I have questions about this contract he had in the first place.
Which immediately go back to Cherry Bomb, who's finished their song despite everyone watching the fight.
I love. They can see the fight too.
Yeah,
like they're behind the cage and they can see that everyone is like watching a duck fight people.
Yeah, the entire floor is empty.
And they, instead of playing backup music to this fight, they're like, "Well, no one likes us. We should leave."
Yeah, there's no vibes here. And right after the show in their green room, all of them already know Howard. When he shows up, it's like, we couldn't believe it. You must be Howard. It's like, who else would this be?
There's so many anthropomorphic talking ducks in this world.
Yeah, and this is the part where we find out why
Yes, this is
Beverly knows Phil is because she's dating one of the other band members. And he's already immediately sees Howard and he's like, oh, I have some theories about frozen cave ducks and ancient duck gods.
Again, he would be so much better if he was like really freaking into little green men.
Yes.
Like Scooby-Doo and the alien invasion level conspiracy bullshit.
Is there a Scooby-Doo like that?
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Huh.
Oh, we gotta watch it. That's the movie where Scooby and Shaggy both get girlfriends and they're both aliens.
I have seen that one because that's part of the combo pack with the...
I was gonna say, isn't that the one that comes with the zombie island?
I thought you were talking like actual little green men, kind of.
I mean, they're tall blue men in that one, but
yeah.
I mean, like the like fellow normal people around Scooby-Doo and his alien girlfriend, those people are like, oh my god, the little green men poked me in the butt. Those people is who Phil should have been.
Yes, exactly.
Tinfoil hat.
Yeah, and this whole scene's like short-lived. That's the thing, is like all these scenes are so short-lived.
But it's not even like they're cut short. They're just like written short.
Yeah, it's like they wrote a bunch of sketches that, oh, this would be a funny moment. This would be a funny situation. Let's throw it together and call it a movie.
There's also a lot of places this movie exists in. Because, like, we have, like, a pretty cool set with, like, the bar that the Cherry Bomb's singing, our main lady's, like, apartment/garage thing that she lives in. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But instead we spend almost all of our time just, like, running around the city.
Yeah, we're close to, like, an hour into this movie, and we still haven't really gotten any of the plot, really.
Yes. We haven't even met the bad guy yet.
No, because after this, they immediately are leaving.
Yeah.
And Howard says, oh, I'm your manager now. And Phil steals a feather from him, and they go back to Beverly's. And this is...
the most awkward thing that has ever been written in the entirety of the universe.
Close.
It's damn close, then.
I think the B movie might be worse.
The B movie is worse just on principle.
We'll get into that in just
We're going to eventually have to do the B movie.
God, unfortunately. But there's a little ditty he plays. It turns out to be the kind of the theme for the end of it. It also sounds a little bit like DuckTales, in my opinion.
Yes, I also did not like it. Like his little ditty that he's like jamming to, and she's like, wow, he's so good. He's not good. That sounds terrible. Yeah. It's not a bop.
No, but she's smitten, so... She
is, and she's moved past the whole he might be my pet thing, and now he's, a love interest. And not
she wants him to be the manager of their band. She's like, you could be the manager now, and...
He's like, I am the manager. Were you not listening?
And, like, this whole scene is happening while she's in her undies and, like, a negligee. No, not even. It's
This
not a negligee. I don't know what it's.
She has a bathrobe that's wide open with her bra and panties.
It's okay. For some reason, I had my thoughts that it was like the Austin Powers Fembots, like,
I wish.
bathrobe.
It was not, though. It was just a, like, kimono-style bathrobe.
Okay.
That, like, it ain't keeping nobody warm. It ain't keeping nobody dry. This is the lounge around the house and wait for your dead husband's lawyer to come and tell you that you're, like, rich now.
Or this is the lounge around and let it hang open and, oh no, Howard, don't.
But she doesn't even do that. Like, she kind of sort of acts like the two of them physically being together isn't really an option. Like, she's treating him like how, like, very straight girls treat each other, where they're like, I don't really care if you see me in my bra, tee-hee, it's fine.
She is straight up inviting him, because here's the thing.
Later she is.
No, it's this scene. Because he makes a comment about how she looks, and she's like, "Oh, you're the worst. Come to bed, Howard."
She does do that, but at the same time, the way she, like, struts around the apartment does not scream like, I'm trying to get him to bed sooner. It's more like, this is how I normally lounge around the house, and I forgot that Howard's a guy.
No, I am gonna argue that it is not that at all, because it's one of those things of like, oh, he can't resist me in this, like,
I think.
Because, no, because immediately once they're in bed, she starts, like, feeling up his fluff and, like, touching his beak.
I think the second they get to bed, her attitude changes. Her demeanor towards him changes from, like, oh, I'm just walking around the house doing whatever, to, oh, Howard, you naughty duck. Like, it's like a light switch, because until they hit bed, she might, like, be like, oh, tee-hee, Howard, you're so silly. But, like, at no point is she like, Howard, we should go to bed. No, she's just like, oh, yeah, I don't want to put pants on.
Nah, I don't agree with you on that.
I think the writers thought that they wrote her like how you saw her.
Yeah.
Because they put her in bright pink panties and a bra and left her robe wide open. But the actress did not bother to, like, swant around in it.
I am going to reference the internet here and the meme. If she's wearing matching bra and panties, you didn't choose to get laid tonight.
I agree with that sentiment, but again, I don't think this woman dressed herself. I think the writers put her in matching bra and panties. I don't think real life punk Beverly owns matching bra and panties at all. In fact, I would argue that Beverly probably doesn't own a bra if she's that punk.
I don't know. And that's the whole thing. Like, what is this fucking bed scene? Like,
I have no idea.
They embrace the way they shot it feels very much like the whole bullshit from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
And
only
less rapey.
Yeah.
But still, like, she is being very forward of like, I want your ducklings, Howard.
Howard is very uncertain about this. I feel like we could have talked about this a little bit more, Beverly.
I don't know. I think this is like, you know, you might be right. I think this scene is worse than the B movie, and it reminds me so much of Wolf Children as well.
Yeah, doesn't it? A little bit.
It's
a little uncomfortable. And then it gets more uncomfortable because right when she starts getting too steamy for this PG rating, the
Phil and his gang show up.
There's like Phil and two scientists behind a screen just like full on watching them.
Carter and Dr. Jennings.
And it's not even like they're being sneaky. They're like peeping over the top of it, like being like, tell me how he feels.
Oh my god, that I fucking hate that phrase.
But that is like they're over here taking vicious notes and asking for like dialogue.
Well, and their whole reasoning of like, well, your door was unlocked and we just came in. This is some Richard Ramirez kind of bullshit.
Yeah, no. First off, the girl lives in an abandoned warehouse as far as we can tell. I'm not sure her door does lock. I'm not sure she has a door. I think she has a garage door that she's like a button to open.
Yeah.
Like, and second of all, that doesn't mean you just get to waltz in and watch people get it on. Duck or no duck.
Yeah.
Science experiment or not. This is weird. Y'all, all three of them are weird. I mean, Beverly and the duck are also weird, but like they're creepier.
I don't know. I don't know about that. They prevented something horrible from.
I agree with you completely. However, all of them are bad together, just in different ways.
They're all just dipshits.
Yes.
Because now we learn how Howard got here. He was brought by a laser spectroscope experiment gone wrong, which...
I still don't understand what they were trying to do with this experiment.
Take pictures, maybe? Or
how does a picture...
What even is a spectroscope?
I feel like they just made up some words and threw them together into a sentence.
A spectrograph, sometimes called a spectroscope or a spectrometer, breaks the light from a single material into its component colors, the way a prism splits the light into a rainbow.
Cool. How does that suck a duck from a different dimension?
It's used to analyze light and discover properties of how materials interact with it.
I'm down for that. Again, though, how does that suck a duck from space?
I don't know, but Beverly was about to suck a duck.
That's the level of humor this movie should have had.
Yeah, well, on top of that, like the experiment that they're doing, I can't explain it. I'm not a science nerd.
Okay, I don't even care if you are a science nerd. None of this makes sense.
The spectroscope didn't do what they thought it was going to do.
It sure fucking didn't.
And on top of that, like, the experiment, like, the filming of the experiment feels more like a movie scene instead of, like, lab footage. Like,
Yes,
there's angles and stuff.
They are very proud of this footage.
It's just so bad. And, I mean, it's also great, too, in this part, because Four Eyes is losing his chance at becoming great, because they're like, we think we can send you back home.
That's awesome. But again, though, they haven't really gone like, Howard has just said, like, I don't belong here. But, like, again, he's been here, like, 2 days at most. And, like, they don't really explain why Howard needs to go home other than he doesn't feel like he fits in here yet.
Howard wants to go home probably because it's still his home, but,
I'd be fine with that if he was like, boy, I'm just really attached to my home. I miss Ducktopia. And Duck Metropolis and Quacksville.
He's coming around though.
No, yes. But again,
Soon.
like, no, he spends like almost 90% of this movie being like, I don't belong here. Beverly, goodbye.
He's just basically Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo had more effort in going home than this. Not a lot of effort, but more than this. Bilbo at least bitched about wanting to be home more than this.
Yeah, which...
Howard the Duck is just like, I want to go home. Why? At least Bilbo wanted to be home with his tree, his book, and his chair. Oh, and he forgot his hanky.
Fucking hate that bit so much.
Howard didn't leave his hanky.
No, but he left his
Porno.
play duck. Yeah, pretty much.
That would have been a logical reason, though. If he was like, no, I have a new episode at home I need to go look at.
The next volume of Backdoor Sluts is coming out.
Yeah, I just recently bought this magazine. I haven't even gotten to crack it open yet.
I haven't winked to it.
Yeah, like that. If Howard was like,
I haven't read the articles.
Yeah, I haven't gone through all of the text.
That is what he says. He's like, oh, who did they interview this time?
Yeah, no one, Howard. That's what you know.
But quickly we are on to Dynetics, which there's no security. We find out the beams failed and people are injured. Well, like 2 people are injured.
Everyone like 2 people are injured. One man is like really injured though.
One dude's like on fire still. Like
his like half of his face like is melting.
Yeah.
But everyone else seems fine.
Yeah, and the only person who's unaccounted for is Jennings was hit by the blast and vanished.
I love how little they look for Jennings though.
No, not at all.
They don't look at all. They're just like, oh, Jennings is gone, bye.
Well, and on top of that, so what they add a line that just ruins the rest of the movie of like, what if we brought down something else? It's like, way to spoil any tension that you guys could have built up.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially because, like, Howard, up until this point, hasn't really been a superhero movie.
Well, that's the thing. Howard's not a superhero. He doesn't have any powers. He is just
an ass.
He's an anthropomorphic duck who knows quack foo.
Yes.
And is now actually kind of makes me think of Hugh Hefner, and that probably would have been a better...
Honestly, that would have been a better reference point for this duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he had been Hugh Hefner-y, that would have been better. But instead, he's a normal dude who now has to fight Alien.
We'll get there. Because the cops show up, and the whole conversation with the duck, he appears, he's like, oh, what is it? Oh, his duckness must be inborn. It's like...
It's very strange in, like... It's not even really, like, fuck the cops 80s mindset. It's just bad writing.
Yeah, because they're immediately taking him, he's being charged with illegal alienness.
That's a little funny.
It is.
That's a little funny only because, like, this is the only time the movie, like, acknowledges the fact that none of this makes any goddamn sense. Because they're like, why are you arresting him? On what charges? He's literally done nothing wrong. And they're like, he's an alien.
Yeah.
That's a little funny.
It's also just stupid, too, because they're doing all of this, and, like, Howard's like, I'll call my attorneys. I need a lawyer. And, like, Beverly's like, yeah, stick it to the man. And it's like...
Yeah, like, it feels like someone who just vaguely kind of understood what punkiness should be.
Yeah. It's just all done because immediately they're on the run, which they find Jennings, who's not doing well.
And also wasn't missing very... Like, it's the equivalent of, like, putting your glasses on top of your head and then being like, I've lost my glasses, better go buy a new pair.
Yeah, exactly.
He was, like, literally, like, 2 feet to the left.
Well, he supposedly reappeared.
No, I fully believe that he was just blasted backwards behind, like, a chair or something, and they didn't even look for him.
In the chaos, we lost him.
Yeah, he's just laying down.
Which, I mean, the police officers say the stupid line of, it's a duck hunt.
That's very stupid, but again, I don't hate that part. There's so much else to hate in this movie that I've stopped caring about that.
Yeah. And here, speaking of stupid stuff, so Jennings supposedly disappeared and came back. He's been in a major accident.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he driving? And he's spewing nonsense about...
He's got an
I'm
alien...
being replaced from the inside out.
Okay, this is the level of stupid, though, that I like in an alien movie. Because he is... Without doing over-the-top acting, and without bothering for them to, like, really go in on, like, some special effects or some CGI, just blatantly telling the audience, like, hey, heads up, I'm gonna just, like, become an alien, and you're gonna accept it, fuckers.
Yeah, just as, like, we have to accept that, I guess Howard's world is so similar to ours because he knows all the driving rules that they're breaking.
Yes. Also, why isn't Beverly driving? Can she not drive?
That exactly.
Can
Nothing
Howard
makes
not
sense.
drive? I guess Howard probably can't reach the pedals.
Yes. Here's why they have it. It's because Jennings crashes the car and Jennings spouts some stupid line of Jennings is no longer Jennings. It's like
there is only Zool.
Exactly.
But I like it is just there is only Zool. This is the only part of the movie that I like.
But they could have led up to that, and they just don't.
I fully agree that and do not hate me, but for all of the faults that the original Ghostbusters had, Zool was the best part, because it is the stupidest bad guy. You just add a little makeup to an actor or actress you already have, give them a funky voice, and you're just slapping on some CGI, like, overtones. I fucking love that. That's great.
It is. And the movie does do that. I do like the old practical effects like this.
This is the part for me where the movie, like, actually kind of feels kind of good, despite not being very Howard the Ducky.
And it's such a short bit because we have, like, only 30 minutes of the movie left.
Yeah, no, we're like well over the movie's pretty much done, and we've just now met the bad guy.
And we blow through the ending because
yes, almost as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah, because we arrive at Joe Roma's Cajun Sushi, and
I love this restaurant.
I like the sushi sign above where it's spelled SUE-SHI.
It's the stupidest. I love it.
Which New Jennings is just going along with it all. I like that he's just kind of like, all right, I guess this is my life.
Yep.
And his voice changes cheesy, but it does work for this movie.
Okay. Have you seen the live action Scooby-Doo? The first one.
It's been a very long time.
If this bad guy had been in more of the movie, this movie would have had the same vibes as live action Scooby-Doo. Okay. And I think it would have been better if we had this really dumb, like, interaction where, like, we kind of got to know and care about not Jennings and Zool and his, new ghost best friend, that would have been good. That would have been more entertaining than Howard the Duck being like, man, I can't get a job. You can't get a job. Jennings is a ghost and living in a man's body. He's losing his hair at an alarming pace.
Or the humor is just bad 90s mom humor.
Yes, that's true.
And you're right, he is kind of a ghost because
I love the special effects that they did on him and the practical effects. Because, like, the makeup is fairly subtle with how, like, it changes, but by the time we get, like, halfway through the diner scene, he goes from looking like Jennings to you being like, boy, Jennings is looking rough.
Yeah, because we learned that the laser hit the nexus of Somnus, and Jennings is possessed by one of the exiled Dark Overlords. He is both the gatekeeper and the key.
Cool.
Yeah, which...
I love it. It's fine.
I find it funny in, like, movies like this where maybe it's because he's read Jennings' mind, but they always go to it like, your kind would find my true form hideous and revolting.
Yeah, no, it's the dumbest stuff, but I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Jennings is the best part of this movie.
He is, unfortunately. And all of this explanation gets interrupted because Howard is served fucking eggs.
Yeah, no, Howard kind of ruins the movie.
Yeah. No.
I'm so invested in Jennings and Zool Jennings. And then, Howard, well, on top of that, like, again, Howard has lived here for at least now 3 days.
3, 4, yeah.
Yeah, like a little while.
He's had one night that he almost... No, this is still the night of the almost horrible thing that happened.
God damn. Okay, so like 2 days. But in those 2 days, he learns that we hunt and eat ducks.
Mm-hmm.
And he's shocked and appalled by eggs. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that the duck should eat the egg. But also, as someone who has had interactions with ducks that people own, a duck will eat an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fried egg, hell yeah, duck gonna eat that.
Duck don't know better.
I don't think ducks care.
No, they don't.
It's not like, oh, the baby. No, it's an egg. This is fried egg.
It's food.
It's food. Duck eat food.
Yeah. And just such a stupid moment because, like, yeah, I mean, it's also, because right after this, Mr. Dark and Spooky showcases his powers, which cool effects on the eyes.
I like this.
By opening ketchup and mustard jars with them.
Okay, there is a subtlety to Not Zool that I do like. They just didn't give enough time to, like, develop any of it. Because we've only got, like, 30 minutes left of the movie. Maybe less now. And
a lot less, yeah. Yeah,
so, like, the makeup change is subtle. The voice change is subtle. The teeth sharpening is subtle. And it would have been better if we had more time with Not Zool to, like, really extend that, like, change. Because also his powers change depending on how much energy he has.
Yeah.
So, like, right now, he's, like, running off of empty. He can pretty much just push some stuff around, open some ketchup bottles, and spin Howard the Duck in the air, Exorcist style.
This is this movie's version of, like, someone who's going through physical therapy, and at the end, everyone's cheering, like, yay, you did it!
He walked himself down the aisle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only the difference is instead of going and doing the hard work of physical therapy, he drinks electricity with his nasty tongue.
And nuclear energy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the nuclear energy part.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bathes in some nuclear energy.
Yep.
And he's fine.
And the group is going to leave, but are stopped by a bunch of rednecks for some reason because...
Okay, I don't understand why
we don't
here.
like your kind around here.
But which one? Which one are you talking about? You talking about the punk? Are you talking about the duck?
Them city folk.
That
with their weird bills and their punk rock hairdos.
I would understand if they were trying to pick a fight with the punk. She's weird. The fact that they don't really acknowledge that Howard is a duck really is strange and upsetting.
And it is Howard they're picking a fight with because they immediately pick him up and are going to go cook him.
Well, yes, Howard is the scary one, but, like, the reason they've picked a fight with him doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And they're not even just picking a fight with him. They're full on going to kill him.
Yeah, which... honestly, this scene does have one of the best parts, I will say.
Yes.
Because in them taking him off to the kitchen, Beverly admits that Howard's her boyfriend.
And that doesn't help the situation.
And they're look around back to her like, the fuck?
You dating this?
Yeah.
All right.
Which, I don't know. There's so much to this fight scene that doesn't make sense too, because
they like kind of sort of tie him down, but not really.
Try seasoning him alive while they're...
I do like the person in the background like throwing parsley on him. That's funny.
And now they have like the one random Asian chef who we know is not working behind the sushi bar.
No, yeah, where's this man come from?
Yeah, exactly. All I will say, not Zool using the flying knife
Yes.
is kind of funny, but I don't get why he saves Howard either.
Because they should be fighting him. He's clearly the bad guy, and instead they're picking a fight with the dumb duck.
Yeah, and...
Not Zool very much feels like main character energy, and he's upset he's not currently the focus of this film.
True.
Like, that's all I got.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of bad one-liners and...
Oh, there's so many bad one-liners. Honestly, the rest of this fight is a blur. There's some stuff pushed around. People...
It's just chaos. There's
a part where we, like, torture Howard a little more.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't remember why. And I literally just watched this movie.
And everything gets stopped because the Dark Lord is tired of it all and pushes everything to the side, which, like Inception, they use the slanted stage to film that.
It looks good.
But he kidnaps Beverly and flees, which I don't know why he kidnaps Beverly.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. Which allows Howard to escape, but he's not fast enough to catch the semi-truck that he's
been run over by.
Yeah.
But Beverly thinks he's been run over, but he's a duck, so he gets, like, the truck misses him.
Yeah, he's short enough to lay down and...
Yeah, he Indiana Jones is it. He's fine.
Yes. Which Howard immediately finds Phil in a cop car because the cops arrested him for some reason.
Yeah, you know. Honestly, like, though, again, if he had been more, like, tinfoil hat conspiracy guy, I would accept that he's been arrested for something.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, like, these two are such a pair of dipshits because they're like, no, stealing this cop car is going to be too suspicious. Let's go steal that glider.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
This is also how I find out Howard doesn't know how to fly.
Yes. But, fun fact, you can't really, at least not in the 80s, fake flying a glider.
No.
So both of these actors, one of whom is in a duck costume and can't see, had to learn to pilot this thing.
Sure, it was on wires too.
It was a little bit on wires, but there's several scenes where they had to learn how to pilot it.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying.
Yeah. But also I'm kind of curious about some of this part too, because we get a couple snippets of the Dark Lord just doing dumb shit. I wonder if Men in Black pull their performance.
It does feel a little
from this a little bit,
especially the part where he like opens his mouth and weird Men in Black tongue comes out and he like plugs himself into the truck.
Yeah,
that feels Men in Blacky.
And like he doesn't like instead. Actually, I wonder if this is heavily inspired because what he says, power or energy. It's at the same like tone as like sugar water.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe in the 80s that's just kind of what people thought aliens were like. I don't know.
It's just bad sci-fi writing.
It is. I mean, again, though, he's the best part of this movie, so...
Because he sees a nuclear power plant, he's gonna go steal more power, which that's all... This is all cut between Howard and Phil
I don't care about
flying.
And they're being chased by the cops.
And
not by, like, one or two, like... A herd of cop cars. A swarm of cop cars are chasing them.
Well, and they decide to take off in the middle of the day from a runway that's right next to where the cops have them.
Well, and it's not even like the cops, like, are like, oh my gosh, they're leaving, and then chase after them. No, like, the cops are, like, actively trying to stop them as they're taking off. Like, this is the worst chase scene.
Yeah.
They don't even get very high off the ground, partially because of filming, but, like, restraints. Like, they couldn't get the hang glider up off the ground very far because again they would have had to actually pilot it and one of those people, specifically the one actually piloting it, couldn't see. So that's a problem. But also, like, because of this limitation, the way they got around it was writing it as, like, they're so bad at piloting it, the highest up they get is maybe 8 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
And that's, like, to jump some cars.
Well, and on top of that, like, there's hijinks that don't make sense, like,
None.
The harassing of the duck soldiers where Howard yells, Tora, 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 and Bonsai. Like...
Yeah, and, like, spends time and energy that he was... not even seconds ago, using to escape the cops and go get Beverly, who he now has heard her declaration of love for him. Like, and he's like, wait, no, never mind. Hold on, side quest. We gotta beat up these duck hunters.
Yeah, which, and for those who don't know why this phrase sounds weird, it's because it's the call sign that was used for the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Like,
it's a very tactless joke.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it doesn't work, and there's a small little home screen. I need to add that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
This whole just chase scene's really dumb, because...
We also lose cop cars left and right.
Yeah.
Like, they are crashing into anything and everything.
And not only is Howard decimating this obviously small town's cop force, so's the Dark One, because he's out there obliterating cops, or what's the stupid line he says? The cop asks for his ID or something. And
yeah. He's like trying to get past what is like all the cars are stopped for an emissions test on the highway. Yeah, and he's like running people over.
Oh, here's the line: "You got some ID, Jack? I am no Jack."
Yes.
Yeah.
However, it makes so much more sense for not Zool to be attacking the cops than it does for Howard.
Yeah.
Howard, and honestly, Howard takes out more cops.
Yeah, he does.
Like, a lot more cops.
Well, all we see is, like, 2 that got taken out by the Dark One.
Yeah, I would like to think, though, that, like, for an emissions test stop, there was all of 2 cops. Maybe 3.
Oh, right, they're stopping for an emissions test.
It's not like they're getting, like, drug searched. Like, someone walks by the car with a little device and is like, hey, you need to get your stuff checked out, you know, get your car into the shop, here's the ticket. On with your day.
Yeah, it just...
But instead, like, Howard's over here just ruining the police force in this tiny town.
And the duck hunters, we gotta add that, too.
Oh, and all, 6 of the duck hunters.
Yeah, because now the Dark One gets to the power plant, he sucks up all his power.
I do appreciate that there is the slightest little detail of he blasts a hole through the glass to get to the power plant, and then a little gate falls down and is like, no, and he's like, ah, and he just, like, walks through the gate.
Yeah.
Just blasts his way through that, too.
Yeah, and immediately we get to the science lab where they're getting the, Howard and Phil grab a neutron disintegrator to fight him.
And they strap it to a tiny little moon cart.
Yes, that made me think of Austin Powers again.
It is Austin Powers-y, yeah.
But, and also we get him target, like, not Zool targeting, like, this Nexus of Somnus, which somehow the computer knows.
Well, I mean, it's the last coordinates.
I guess.
I don't know.
But it said, the thing says, targeting the Nexus of Somnus.
Yeah, I don't. Again, bad writing.
Yeah. Which, also, Howard and Phil's whole plan is to sneak up on him.
With the cart.
And this giant-ass gun.
And then also, neither of them know how to use it properly, but Phil kind of does, but he doesn't bother to tell Howard.
Well, and they screw it up altogether because they crash into shit.
Yeah, no, this isn't like a good golf cart that they've attached it to. This is like a forklift, but worse.
Yeah, well, and, like, when they show up, he's like, Howard. Like, they're mortal enemies. You've saved him from being killed, and you never even fought him. This is really your first fight.
Yeah, and I would have appreciated it if not Zool was in the majority of this movie, and there was, like, that weird, like, we're enemies, but also kind of best friends, sort of, like, really stupid vibe, where, like, that would have been so much more interesting.
Like a Deadpool-Wolverine relationship kind of thing. Or
even Dr. Doofenshmirtz and Perry the Platypus.
Oh, I have no clue.
I don't know who would be who, but so that dynamic of, like, yeah, we're best frenemies. I hate that guy, but no one else can beat that guy up but me.
Yeah.
That sort of dynamic.
What?
That would have been cool. But instead we have Alien Man, who's kind of kicking everyone's ass.
Well, and on top of that, we have really bad writing here because I hate this line that Beverly says. Run, Howard, he's in a bad mood.
Yeah, also, it has been very briefly and quickly explained that Beverly is the hostage because the aliens can't survive without a host body.
Which immediately is fucking proven wrong.
Yeah, no, like, not even seconds later it's proven wrong. But to add to the 80s bullshit tension, we have Beverly strapped to a table.
Like the Genghis Khan music video.
Yeah, exactly like that. And she's, like, below the laser, so that way, supposedly just one more doomsday guy can come hang out. Because we didn't bother to kidnap anyone else, just her.
Yeah. Well, and even Howard has some bad lines, too. It's like, prepare to eat big. And that's the thing. Probably because this movie's written out to be, like, a really cheesy...
Yes.
Or not, I don't, that's the thing is, I don't know if they were trying to go for cheesy because, like, it's not on the same level as, like, Tammy and the T-Rex was, for example.
True.
But yeah, it doesn't work. But I will say, I like the effects of, like, the energy beams.
Oh,
and
I do
stuff.
too. Like, the effects look great. Honestly, the Not-Zool fighting, I like. I just don't care for any of the dialogue between here and the end.
No. And, like, the rest of this movie's not very good either because there's a big explosion. Howard survived, but Jennings is freed somehow, and the Dark Overlord is on the loose despite not being able to
live outside
survive.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, his character design's cool, but it very much looks like something out of Men in Black.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I do think it does have solid stop animation. It's done by Phil Tippett, who did the visual effects for Star Wars, RoboCop, Jurassic Park, Starship Troopers, and most recently Mad God.
Yeah, cool.
So there's a big name behind it. But I think part of it is just it doesn't work with how the rest of the movie was done.
True, and also he's on screen for maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, total.
Yeah, because and we get a little clip of the tunneling of the tunnel and all the Dark Lords coming through. It's all just the same one repeated.
Yeah, but again, not clarified is they're all going to be inside the girlfriend, or if now they can all live in Earth without any problem. Like, I don't know.
We all live in a girl named Beverly. A girl named Beverly.
That would be hilarious.
But they eventually blast the laser in one go. Howard is now stuck, but he's okay with it. Sorry, Michelle from Howard's World. Howard is staying for that naked ape strange.
Yeah. Howard doesn't seem super conflicted about staying on Earth.
No.
Despite that being literally the only thing Howard bitches about this entire movie.
Well, probably not, because we close out on a Cherry Bomb concert where Howard's their manager. He has their own theme that they're playing.
And then also he has his own duck-sized guitar that he gets to play on stage.
Which the actor still has.
Yeah. No, they made a guitar specially for him. And apparently he actually learned to play it in the duck costume. Which is not only impressive because duck costume, and like we said, he's got like weird glove fingers. But also he can't see.
I also don't think he's actually really playing the crazy,
Probably not, well, but from what it was, from the interview, it's I guess he did learn to play guitar for the role. So, I can't tell if, in the duck costume he's playing, but, I guess he did learn to play this guitar. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good for him.
That kind of feels like Nicolas Cage learning to speak Navajo for Wind Talkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
But this whole bit feels very Back to the Future-esque, and
yes, it sure does.
the credits roll.
Yeah.
Howard the Duck.
God damn, that movie was weird.
This movie, unsurprisingly, bombed.
And not just... And normally when we say a movie doesn't do well, it's oh, the critics hated it, but the audience... No, everyone hated this movie.
The initial screenings were mixed.
Okay, I did find an interview where one of the members of cast admitted to tearing up several of the bad reviews so that way they would get a better screening review.
I bet. Well, I also like the story in, I think it was like one of the interviews with the writers. I think it was with Cats. That they mentioned that at the studio screening. It's not screaming. Screening.
I mean, might have been.
No. There, just no one had a reaction and they just left.
That's the worst.
I know, right?
That's the worst. Because at least if people like actively leave and they're like mad about how bad it is, you know you've made something truly awful. But instead, people are just like, wow, that was bad. All right, time to go home.
Yeah. Which I can definitely see. There's a lot of people I know who I still don't understand the point of like walking out of a movie theater. I've never done that.
I've only done it for other reasons, not because the movie was terrible.
But I can see people walking out of it. But there is a plus side to this.
Okay.
This led to Howard being in Spaceballs.
That is true.
So there was some good that came out of this.
And that was worth it.
Yes. But there is something that Lucas said that I think is quite accurate.
Mm-hmm.
It will be rediscovered in 25 years and be seen as good for its time. Which...
I'm going to argue with him on that. It's been past 25 years.
I know. I will say the suit is good for its time.
There are small pieces that are good for its time.
Yes.
But
they are very few and far in between.
Not enough pieces.
And to be honest, unfortunately, I do think this is somewhat better than some of the shit that Marvel's slinging out.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree only because it had a decent sized budget, but it wasn't a huge initial budget. Granted, they went over budget by a lot.
Don't doubt it.
Like, enough that several of the actors were like, yeah, it was terrible, I regret it, but I got so much overtime from this that it was worth it.
Yeah, and all of them just seem to like it. Like, they're like, yeah, it was bad, but we had fun doing it, so...
Yeah, whereas nowadays Marvel has not just the money to throw at any project their little hearts could possibly desire, but they also have on call a ginormous cast of big named celebrities and actors who they have on contract to do for them whatever they want for the next like 20 years or something, or like until someone dies, honestly.
Yeah, it just...
And so like the fact that they aren't putting out to a level beyond Howard the Duck is disappointing. Whereas Howard the Duck is disappointing just because it's Howard the Duck.
So here's what I'll say to it and how I'll defend Howard the Duck a little bit.
Okay.
For me, watching Howard the Duck is very much like watching the first Super Mario Bros. Movie.
I agree with that.
Where it was a new medium's true first foray, despite there were animated movies and television movies and serial movies that came out before this. But it was a first live action attempt at a medium that I'm pretty sure the writers didn't fully understand how to translate.
I completely agree with that.
And that's how I think that's why I relate to the first Mario Bros. Is it's not a good movie, but it has a lot of the similarities of like, what the hell is going on with this?
True.
Who even figured out like, we're just gonna mash a bunch of shit together and hope it works? It's weird enough. Comic book fans are weird, right?
You've hit the nail on the head there. I will definitely say that. I also think that despite having failed massively, not only in box office, but at home release, this did spark an interest in the actual character of Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Enough so that people fondly remember the character of Howard the Duck. To the point where, like, people were legitimately excited to see a cameo of the comic book version of Howard the Duck.
Yeah, who is a gross, disgusting...
Playboy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because let's be very honest, the version of Howard you see in Guardians of the Galaxy, that is not the same Duck. That is a different Howard than this Howard. I
hope in the multiverse that they bring this Howard back a little bit.
I would love to see an actual rebirth of Howard the Duck with Guardians of the Galaxy level money and placing and, like, skill.
Straight up an animatronic duck next to the CGI Howard the Duck.
That. See, that's where this Howard the Duck's life should go. But as far as like because like I see the value in like quote unquote bad designs or badly done things that just either didn't have the time, the budget, or like the ability yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give credit. Howard the Duck's costume, once they finally like landed on one, which unfortunately was halfway through the movie, once they landed on one, it does look good.
Yeah.
The reason it looks bad is because he's the only one.
Yeah, no, exactly. If they had other animatronics next to it, it would have been like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, where they're goofy, but they work.
Yeah. So like there is potential behind Howard, like this version of Howard the Duck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what's kind of frustrating of watching this film is like the writing's god awful. The character design is good though. Like whoever did the detail work on different parts of it throughout the movie, it's good. Like the background's hilarious.
It's better than a lot of what Star Wars had. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
And it's still a bit better than some of the extra shit Lucas did.
I would agree. Because, like, let's be real. The concept of a Cajun sushi combo restaurant in the middle of nowhere, Idaho is hilarious.
I would eat that. That sounds actually
I would not because
good.
It's from the 80s and that's how you die.
Maybe.
This is like a truck stop, too. It's not even like a nice Cajun place. Yeah. But, like, that's hilarious. That level, like, whoever was in charge of that, whoever was in charge of the costume design and the makeup, those people did amazing. I loved those details of this movie. And honestly, that's kind of what made it so I could get to the end of this sucker. That and Not Zool. I loved Not Zool for while he was there.
Yeah, he unfortunately is the best character in the movie and very short-lived.
Yeah, which is hilarious because he doesn't fit the actual Howard the Duck vibe at all. Like, from what I understand, actual Howard the Duck doesn't really fight alien demon overlords.
Yeah, I think from what I read, he's supposed to just be like an unfortunate and happens to go on a bunch of misadventures, basically. He feels like a less actiony Deadpool.
Yeah, or, you know, a worse Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a worse Star-Lord. And so, like, but, like, there's parts of this movie that I genuinely enjoyed. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of getting through the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Which, thankfully, was quick-paced, and this movie wasn't terribly long. So, like, it wasn't a super hard struggle. I think this is only an hour and 11 minutes.
No, it's almost a 2-hour movie.
Is it really?
Yeah.
God damn. At least it was fast-paced towards the end.
Yeah.
The first half
it's a slog.
Is slow, but like once you get past that halfway point, it does pick up and you do lose time quickly. That's nice.
So, Chris, on our good, bad, weird rating, what do you rate this movie?
For me, and I've thought about this all day.
Okay.
For me, this movie is just bad. I'm not going to give it that delightful weird status, only because they didn't really lean into the weird until Not Zool showed up. And Not Zool shows up 30 minutes before the movie's over.
And I will counter that, because I will give it a bad, weird rating.
Okay.
Because of the whole Beverly
is
wanting to screw a duck in the way Phil acted. And the rest of the world just accepting that, hey, there's a talking duck from space.
That's true. That is all very valid. But the way that they handled it, which we talked about throughout this whole thing, about how, like, no one really seems to, like, agree on how to handle said duck, and none of it's the correct way. Which, I mean, there's a lot of correct ways to handle a duck from space, and calling it a small child in a suit isn't one of them.
No.
Beverly in general just needed some polishing to make her even remotely weird enough. Like, honestly, she's too bland for me. Her
wanting to polish something made her weird.
That's true. But, like, Beverly feels like her dialogue and her, like, how she was written feels like someone very generic wrote her. And the only reason she comes across as even remotely interesting is because whoever did her makeup, hair, and costuming truly knew what it was like to be in the punk scene and, like, really did some research or was, like, actively in that and, like, knew how over the top to go, knew what to make her apartment and her /warehouse into the it's like, it's put together, but it's junk. She has found trash on the side of the road and turned it into art. But you don't get this, you don't get any of that from her actual character.
No.
That's all background stuff that has been painted onto this incredibly generic stick figure.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, unfortunately for me, she just, all of them just barely hit not quite weird. I think with some work, we would have hit weird, but unfortunately, they just were dressed up weird.
Okay.
Minus Beverly wanting to screw the duck. That's weird. I'll give you that.
Okay. I'm still going to give it a bad weird rating myself.
I fully understand.
And so, would you recommend Howard the Duck?
As a torture device, yes.
Like they show it to what's Malcolm in fucking Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
Make it stop!
Yeah, so like, if we're having one of those group movie nights where people are like putting out movies purposely knowing that like they're doing it because Christine hates that movie, I'm putting this sucker on and y'all gonna watch it. Fuck you for that. But just in general, like to the normal person, no. There's so many better old Marvel and DC stuff.
Yeah.
Howard's not it.
This is definitely something I would recommend watching it as a artifact of history.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, no, I don't think I can really recommend this movie either. Like,
I mean, if you're next level Marvel movie franchise fanatic and you feel the need to go back to where it all started, to where the multiverse really got its roots, like if you're one of those people who wants to see every character that has made an appearance in the movie that has a movie, you're gonna have to watch Howard the Duck.
Mm-hmm.
But for the general person, even a normal level Marvel lover, meh.
Yeah.
Meh.
I don't think I can recommend this really. Still,
honestly, I'd rather watch like the HGTV show in the hotel room, even if this is on for free.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably end up watching like the children's cartoon channel over this.
That'd be a bit more. There'd be more plot than this.
Blue's Clues has more plot than this, yes.
But anywho, this has been The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the good, the bad, and the weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always, check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.